Hello? Alright, I should be live. If you're hearing me live, say hi, I guess. I'm the only participant. Hello. Another participant. I got one participant. Aha. I thought it would be more people. Give it 5 minutes. Yes. Hello, hello. I'm just inviting everyone on Discord. And 3 people. That's not bad. Yeah, we're going to start in probably another 2 or 3 minutes. See if anyone else will join. Since there's 3 of you and 3 or 4 of you, it's whatever. It was kind of what I was expecting. I always hope more, but I never get more, so that's fine. A lot of people will still watch this after. And if my website looks a little weird or off kilter to you, that's because I have it stretched out a bit more. I got new monitors recently. They're like 32 inches, so they do not fit proper. I wanted to stretch it out so that there was so that I'm not accidentally showing you things I shouldn't be. Yeah. I'm EST. That's what I am. I know there's a lot of my fan base that are on the other side, so it'd probably be a different time for them. I've thought about building up my YouTube channel just because I like doing these kind of things. I like being able to touch base with my fans, but I don't know. I have a fan base that doesn't really go to these things. I see. I go to a lot of YouTube channels because I've always been interested in setting up YouTube and doing some kind of personality there. And I see a lot of people where they have a good following. I go to their Patreon and I judge it basically by what my following looks like, what my supporter base looks like compared to their supporter base. And there is not a lot of support from YouTube. These people, I mean, if they want to call up, they could call up 100, 200 people per stream without a problem, but they won't get more than $600 on their Patreon. So I just have to wonder. I know they get money other places too. I'm not supported with anything else other than what you guys do to support me, where a lot of YouTube channels are supported by commercials. So they do get money that way. but it still it gets you thinking when it's like, you get a few thousand followers, you got just kind of tons and tons of subscribers, and you do a stream and you'll have 20, 30 people show up, or more like 200, 300 people show up, and then, but then when you ask for money, it's like nothing. I suppose I prefer the way it is than the way it could be. I do. It would be nice if I had a few hundred people pop up on a stream, but I'd prefer the big Patreon support over over being there and being curious. I know a lot of people don't really give a crap about me as a author or me as a personality. They just want to read the books. So that is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. I think we're up to 4 followers, maybe. It says 7 concurrent viewers, so I don't know if that means certain people get to be hidden or what's going on with that. It's fine. Might as well get going. I guess right off the bat, does anyone have any questions? My plan is mostly just to go through the books that I'm writing and just kind of give a brief where I'm at, what I'm planning with them, and if you have any questions while I'm going along, I'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, I've been considering, there's a lot of YouTube people who will do readings and stuff. And I showed you guys one where I did it, but it was like, it's exactly the stuff I was trying not to show, but whatever. I was listening to Crit Crab. They basically, all these people do is they'll go in and they'll read a Reddit stories, and they make an entire living out of reading these. There's ones that'll read scary stories. There's ones that'll read these are D&D horror stories. There's ones that'll read. I like listening to the ones where they're kind of choosing beggars. Those are always entertaining. But I thought about doing that, just kind of lending my voice. I'm not sure if my voice is thematic enough, but I'm sure with practice it'd get better. But I think it would be kind of fun, and it would be a way of me building up kind of a fan base on another avenue to try to attract people to my books. I know there's one guy, what's his name? The Critical Drinker. He's an author, and he writes books, but then he does pop culture stuff. Now, I don't want to get into those political pop culture videos. I know a lot of people who do that. Well, I don't know them personally, but I've seen a lot of people do that, and I'm not really interested. I feel like a lot of those YouTube videos just kind of steal the success of what's popular. So they'll take some subject that's popular and they'll just talk about it, and I prefer creating fresh new content rather than just criticizing content that already exists. But I've considered that too, like a channel where I review isekai novels, because you guys know I have that long ongoing. Well, some of you do. I don't know if all of you do. So I'll just say this is here. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is my list of another world web novels. I wrote this in 2016, and I kept adding to it for about a year. And basically, I got to a point where I was constantly reading isekai novels. That was before. This is kind of why my website is an isekai novel website. It's because I was reading them all, and it was very popular, and I really like isekai. That's kind of thing. So anyone complaining my site has too much isekai in it, you gotta understand I'm an isekai author. That's kind of what I'd rather be known for that than being known for incest. I'll tell you that much. So, because I've written quite a few incest books too, but not necessarily because I like incest, but because I was popular at the time, and I thought that if I kept doing that, it would continue to be popular, which is kind of true and kind of false. You end up getting that crowd, and then you can either cater to the crowd you have, or you can do something else. And every time I try to do something else, it's questionable how well I'm succeeding. Anyway, I wrote this entire list. This is like every isekai book I've read. I've read more since then that I just never added. Once in a blue moon, I'll feel like adding one. And I was thinking of doing the equivalent of this, but as a reviewer on YouTube. So just kind of reading out my opinions about every book. Now, in this, I only read 20 chapters, and there were some books that I just could not read longer. And once again, I say web novels, not light novels. I've never read the light novels. If it's not free, if I can't get it and read it for free without, committing any obvious crimes, then yeah, I don't consider it to be something I would review. It's got to be something you can find. So a lot of these are actually old because they were bought up and the web novel was dragged down, so you can't get the web novel anymore. They were once a free web novel, but now they're not anymore because the story got too popular. Anyway, if you didn't know this list was here, it is longer than most of the books I've written. It's about 80,000 words, and it's basically my opinion on just about any. So you can use your search, type it in. I actually wrote this because I would often I was looking for more and more books, and I would go to web novels or web updates or whatever it's called. And when I got there, they would give you a summary, and it would explain nothing. And there were a lot of stories that I just didn't touch because the summary didn't explain what it was about, and it was virtually incoherent. And yeah, you have the tags, but half the time the tags are misleading or flat out wrong. Other times you'll just be kind of hoping that even though it's not tagged that way, that it is that thing. And it just became very difficult to make decisions based on the summaries they give you. This is especially true for the Zenzias, the books that are the Chinese web novels, because some of them are so freaking generic. It's like, in the land of martial law, only the strongest survive, and then you get nothing. It's like, okay, yeah, that's every Zenzia that's ever been written. I have no clue what this is going to be about, what I can see in it. So I started writing these because I felt they were a little bit more in depth, and they gave people what they wanted out of whether they wanted to start a book or not. And some books I hate, and I've written a top 10 list of the ones I hate, and for the most part I still agree with the ones I don't like. And I've honestly gotten very much into the point of rewriting the stories I didn't like. So a lot of the stories I'm writing now are exactly because there's a story I didn't like, but I liked the concept, and I really wanted to see that concept developed, and the author just took it in a direction I wasn't happy with. My Dungeon Life is one of those novels. Most of you probably know, but Slave Labyrinth, Slaves in the Labyrinth, or whatever, there's like 5 different names for it. I did not like that novel. I read 300-400 chapters of that novel, and it turned around and just was such a crappy story that just kept dragging you along, and I just hated it. And so I sought to do something similar, kind of a slice of life story, but the one that continually engaged you and actually developed the characters, and actually it was supposed to. Admittedly, My Dungeon Life has not developed the way that I originally planned it to develop. It was really supposed to just be a slice of life, going down the dungeon slowly, and I've put it into some pretty interesting or strange arcs. So it's a lot more complicated than it was originally supposed to be. The original volume, I think, has the most clear that was what it was supposed to be, because it's supposed to be just, we went to this level, we killed this person, this person, this person, this person, we collected money, we went back to our mansion, we ate, we had sex, then we went back in the dungeon, we did this. It was supposed to be a better version of that formula with a little bit more interest and a little bit, and it kind of turned into what it is, with these very complex stories, but it's kind of got that still root where it's a continually very slow moving story. I mean, it is like Zenzia's. I took a lot of influence from that, where they are at this point in the story is a very small, like, part of the whole. Like, everything that's happened so far is an Aberrus, and I actually do have a map. I don't know if you guys have ever seen my map. I had a cheaper map. No one saw that. Don't look at that. But I don't think there's anything there that gave me away. Anyone want to go back there and pause? Yeah, that's the problem with streaming. Everything you get gets shown. Let me bring up that picture, because I don't think I've ever shown it, because what happened is I ordered this picture and I didn't really know where I wanted everything to be, and it was my desire that they develop this map to be in a way where I could add things to it, and ultimately he gave me all the stuff I needed to do that, but the way he built the map, it was kind of too complicated for me to update it easily, and so I never really updated it. But here is the map of the country. I'm not sure if anyone's seen this before. So what we're talking about, right? The capital is right here. Chalm is like right about here. So the issue going on with the West is actually happening right here. This is where they're currently at. While Alarith and the issues. Oh, you can't see my. I made the mouse go away, so you guys can't see the mouse. So you don't have any idea where I'm pointing at. Oop. Is there a way to do this better? Anyway, I suddenly regret. I regret everything. I don't remember how I made the mouse go away. Here, capture cursor. That should do it. Do you see my cursor now? Is it here? I don't see my cursor now. I did before, but now it doesn't. Was I wrong? Was it capturing my cursor before? And now it isn't? Oh gosh. I'm messing everything up, guys. Alright. I think you guys can see my mouse. So I'm going to assume you guys can see my mouse. So yeah, this is Aberrus. That's the capital. This area up here is where they went for the beach stuff. The tower, Calypso Tower, is around here. This is Kingsport or Aberrusport, or I forget what it was called. Alarith was right here, with Widow's Dungeon being right there. This is the wilderness area that he claims. This is kind of a little big. I would probably cut it shorter. But yeah, this is kind of where the bandits are screwing around, and he would basically have that territory. I think this is a little big, but like for the wilderness and everything, but it's kind of hard. But you can see this is as far as he's gone, and he's been over here just a little bit, and you have this entire, entire continent. I mean, this is how much bigger Imperial Cloud Meadow is. It's almost the size of the 5 continents, so these are the 5 continents. The Tearful Isles haven't even really been mentioned. I don't think they've been mentioned once yet. And then you got the Demon Lands up here, which go for a fair amount of distance. And then, that's the valley up there. You can't even see it. It's like... And then you got another continent on top of this one. And then, of course, you already see that he can cross dimensions, so there's going to be eventually a time where he's going to other dimensions. So that's what I'm looking at for that story. So what we got, how many chapters, but that is not even, a bleep in the grand scheme of things. What is with the snow? That's Shigascar right here. I didn't really care for snow at all, but the person who was drawing this, I guess he felt there had to be snow because it was the north. The demon lands aren't supposed to be cold. So once again, it's just like there's only so much I can explain on the map for the map guy to do. Ultimately, he wasn't an artist, and he just used a program to do this. He gave me a lot of trouble too. I would keep telling him to fix things, and then he would go around and just keep changing them incorrectly. And it is what it is. It's the best map I have at the moment. How far am I through MDL? I would not be surprised if I hit 3,000 chapters with it. So yeah, we're about not even a third of the way through. I'd say maybe not even a tenth of the way through, but that really depends on if it's still loved 3,000 chapters from now. I may eventually just tire of it and have to bring it to an end. But for the foreseeable future, as long as I'm making money, it'll continue, because it's got it'll be my version of God, what do you call it? That's One Piece. It'll be my version of One Piece. It'll just keep going and going. What am I going to do after MDL? I'm going to have other things going on constantly, so whatever's popular. Do I want to create another one like that, where it just runs on indefinitely for a very long time? I don't know. That's a good question. I've already considered creating other ones like it, where there's, short 1,000 word chapters in quick succession. Apocalypse kind of was that. It was 1,500 words, which is more or less the 3 chapters I do for MDL. And I do like Apocalypse, and I could see it being a fairly long-running story if we wanted it to be. But that depends on a lot of factors. Alright. Anyway, so yeah, you get to see the map. There's something you didn't get to see before. I'll make that go away. The reason I haven't put it up is because I don't have any labels on it, and putting labels on it would be kind of a chore. And I had a guy who was going to do it, and then he kind of just left, and so it didn't get done, and so I still have it there. It's not my favorite. Like I said, it's the guy just used a program to do it. It wasn't like he drew it himself, so it has no real impact to me, other than it's a nice resource. I would really like to get either a new map drawn up, or I'd like to put it back together and fix it and get it all labeled up. As far as, I don't know if I should give you any spoilers about MDL. That's in something else. But answering about what's going to happen with him and his split personality. I can say there's going to be no self-cest at all. It ain't happening. Anyone who was expecting that or thinking that, it ain't going to happen. Nope. I might make a joke about it, but I am not going to have it. Just ain't going to happen. I have spoilers. I know what's going to happen, but I don't know if I should be telling you guys those kind of spoilers, because then it's spoiled, and you're going to be like, yeah, And anyone who listens to this are not going to like that. No. He's not going to have sex with himself at all. There's not going to be any of that. No, that's spoiler. I have a lot of stories planned. There's no shortage for Aberrus. Or for my dungeon life. It's going to go on a while. I have, like, some of these events I'm talking about as spoilers are things you're not going to see until, like, volume 23 or 24. I mean, it's just going to be a really long time from now. And I'm saying 23 or 24, knowing that every time I plan out the future volumes, they end up taking 3 or 4 volumes longer than I originally planned. Because remember that the Mere Labyrinth was supposed to be over in volume 6, and that ended up dragging on till volume 9. And then this bandit thing was supposed to be 1 volume, the handling the bandits, and that ended up stretching into 3 volumes. That's not going to be resolved for a while. The bandits will more or less be resolved this volume, and then it'll be next volume where Deke and recombines and is back to normal. He's not going to stay on Earth very long. This is just kind of a taste that Earth is there and it's going to be involved in the story. It's not going to be something where he's gonna. It'll be quite a few volumes before he returns. He'll have the ability, but he won't be doing it. Enslave, that's a good one to talk about. So a lot of people are unclear about Enslaved. I wish I could be clearer about it. I know that some people, only just became fans this month, last month, 2 months ago. People who follow me from the beginning naturally get all the news and know what's going on with every book. And the people who don't, it's unreasonable. It's kind of unreasonable to even expect you to read one of my newsletters, but to read all of the newsletters I've ever written, just to be able to catch up with what's going on. I understand that that's not something people are going to do. Enslaved is on a rotating schedule with World of Women. There's a lot of complicated reasons this happened, but essentially, after finishing, there was a time I was writing WoW and Enslaved at the same time. It became too much, and so I stopped writing Enslaved after World of Women Volume 3, or Volume 2, and then I wrote World of Women Volume 3. Then I stopped writing World of Women and wrote Volume 2 of Enslaved, and right now I'm writing World of Women. So when World of Women is done, I will return back and Enslaved Volume 3 will happen. So right now I'm chapter 17. You can see most of the books are around 40 chapters, 42 chapters, 37 chapters. So you can guess that we're looking at another 20 chapters, 23 chapters for this volume. And once Volume 4 is done, I will, I need to get a book cover for Volume 4. That needs to happen at some point. Anyway, once Volume 4 is done, then I will be returning and doing Enslaved Volume 3. Since I'm talking about World of Women at the moment, I got about another 20 chapters in this. There will be one last volume. I will make this 5 volumes. This will more or less pick, kind of his last youthful years. And Volume 5 will pick up about 15 years later. All of his kids are going to be teenagers, and then it'll probably be a return to the roots thing, and it'll kind of just give you some closure. I don't have a full story kind of thought out. It might end up resolving the plot lines brought up in Volume 3. And maybe, depending on how much I'm able to wrap up in Volume 4. But, it will be a conclusion to World of Women. It was a rocky story from the get-go all the way through, but I guess it will be a conclusion. It was, I don't know. It's the story that got me writing. I suppose it deserves the honor of being finished, but it's definitely been an extremely rocky story too, with a lot of issues of various kinds. But yeah, I'm probably gonna finish Volume 4 up. Definitely, it'll be resolving the serial killer arc, and it might resolve up some of the demon arc, and then Volume 5 will kind of be him as an adult finally, and it'll be more mature and also kind of the same old Clyburn. Yeah, there's a lot of people who just, they went off and they hate Clyburn because he's such an idiot, he doesn't do everything I would do. And it's just like, he's two guys to get together, he should have 40 years of experience, how could he be such an idiot? And I'm like, he's got a guy who, killed himself by drinking himself to death because he was cucked by his wife. So he was like a middle management businessman who basically drunk himself to death. And then he was a 12-year-old who was so, coddled by his mother that he had basically never been out of his home. Those were the personalities that got combined, and people just were so bothered by how his actions. They were like saying they didn't make any sense, and I was just like, okay, you think the combination of those two personalities is going to be a suave guy who thinks of everything? Okay, if you say so. I get a lot of comments about how beta or stupid all my, especially on Royal Road and Scribble Hub. As much as I need to put out on those channels to get new readers coming in, I get slammed a lot from critiquers who are very opinionated, and they think a lot of my characters are pure betas. I actually, I've written a few alpha characters. There's the Last Dread Pirate, and Guy on a Spaceship, and Enslaved. All three of those are very alpha men. Admittedly, I play jokes on them being alpha men. Except for Enslaved, I mostly let him be always right, and I tend to find that a little bit boring. Yeah, so anyone who hasn't been with me from the beginning, because if you were there when I was first writing WoW, when I was writing Volume 1 and Volume 2, you probably know this already, but yeah, there was this time where just a lot of people would rage up and they would hate everything I wrote in World of Women. And at the end of Volume 1, they were all pissed. End of Volume 2, they were all pissed. Start of Volume 3, they were all pissed. And I just had so many rage, events that it got me very depressed about writing World of Women. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, and I didn't like continuing it. So I get this interesting storyline. I thought, this would be really interesting to have Clyburn end up being in another man's shoes, and that was hated. And I thought the ending of Volume 2 was very climactic and very interesting, and there is a little bit of loss, but it's not that sad. It's just like, oh, it's so sad. 2 of the 15 women he has died. It's like, really, guys? You can't be just happy with it ended. He had his family together. He had a lot of women he cared about, and the two who died were the least relevant in the story. I mean, Ashton was meaningful, but at the same time, she had her own problems, and was a guy originally, and I don't know. I liked that storyline, and to have everyone shit on it, it got to the point where I stopped liking writing WoW, which is why I ended up doing the trade-offs between Enslaved and WoW, because neither story I like writing all that much. And I know some people will then go on, he's like, he doesn't like writing the story, that means it's not as good. And I write all kinds. I mean, it's just like I write the stories. I'm just because I don't really like this doesn't mean I have some points of enjoyment. It's more of a struggle to get the words on paper, to get it done, to move on. If you notice, if there's a chapter I skip, it's usually WoW that week. 95% of the time, it's World of Women that I'm skipping here. When there's other stories I could skip and have less people pissed at me. But the reason because it is just because it put a bad taste in my mouth, having so many people constantly not like the story or complain about things I did in it, or go on these tiniest violin rants about how depressing the story is, even though it's not that depressing of a story. I mean, there are stories far more depressing, and I mean, his girls aren't being stolen away from him, although you'd think they were in Volume 3, Oh no, he slept with a girl who's notoriously horny, and she liked it when she didn't know it was him. Oh, he was cheated on. It's not right. It puts such a bad taste in my mouth. As far as Enslaved goes, I never liked that story. So if anyone was thinking, oh, well, Slaved... No, that story I don't like writing. I find the protagonist extremely boring because he's always right. Everything always goes his way. And keeping that interesting is just not and logical. I can keep it if I can keep it interesting, but keeping it logical, that's the step, without having to go to absurd lengths in order to make surprises that aren't the MC's fault. And that's what I get in a lot of trouble with. You'll have I have my MCs be kind of they might make emotional choices, they might get angry, they might do stupid decisions. They might have things they can't help, and that really pisses the people off because they think they should just bullhead their way through all these adventures, and everything should always go their way. So if anything doesn't go their way, it should just be because the bad guy is just so freaking great that he's thought of everything, and the hero should also be so freaking great he's thought of everything. So it's just a clash of two geniuses, and I just don't like writing it when it's that way. I like putting a little emotion and reason into how things progress. So, I mean, I'm not saying I hate Enslaved, and I'm not saying that I absolutely hate World of Women, but they are stories I struggle to write, and that's why I swap between them, because both of them are stories that have kind of... I don't know. I probably ranted a little more than I should have there, but yeah, that's my position on those two novels. And it doesn't mean they're not good novels. Most people think Enslaved is their favorite novel, and I'm happy to write it, and I think it's a fun novel, and I was really happy with how Volume 2 ended up coming full circle. I was a little worried in the middle there that I wouldn't be able to bring everything together, but I think I brought it together pretty good. Volume 3 of World of Women, that one I was pretty happy with how I concluded everything as well. Both those stories were a little touch and go in the middle, where I wasn't sure if I'd be able to pull everything together in a way that felt logical. See, I mean, there are people who are perfectly okay with that, but I don't like, plot threads that went nowhere. I don't like things that happen that were just filler. So I try to make everything have some kind of logical reason. And some of you might, not agree. I've achieved that, and that's fine too. But I like to set things up and have so the two things I tend to not like when writing a story is no setup. In other words, introducing something and just resolving and having it resolved like that because that thing existed. And I do that a bit with my dungeon life, and it irks me every time I have to do it. And that's with the abilities, because I don't put all the abilities on page right away. Sometimes I'll just say, oh yeah, he had this ability, even though I've never mentioned it before now. And part of the reason I do that is because if the more abilities I add, the more you guys are going to be like, well, he could have done this and this, he could have done this and this, and then you're going to be constantly calling Deke an idiot for not using every skill, even though he doesn't have the ability to look at his skills easily. I mean, this one of the things about Deke is that he gets that alarm and he sees the thing and he has a skill checker ability. But, I mean, you see how complicated his sheet of skills is. I mean, when he's doing it, I actually have the MBL skill sheet up here. I'm not going to bring it up for you guys. But he's got so many jobs and so many skills. There's no way he could follow all that stuff. There's barely I can follow all that stuff and know it and think about it all. So it's just like some skills he's proficient in, and some skills he's never thought about and never used, and he's always gaining new skills whenever he levels. So yeah, Deke is I mean, the skills in Deke's case, the skills are a bit overwhelming, both actually for me as an author and probably for him as something in it. I'm keeping it the way it is, but he's has so many jobs now, and he's got so many skills he's unlocked, and there's the redundancy with skills too, and keeping that sorted out has been a nightmare. But yeah, most people don't give me too much crap about it, so I'm fine. But if they gave me as much crap about it as they gave me over swapping genders and Moth, because when I write Man of the House, I'll imagine the girl is the guy or the guy is the girl to be able to write the scene, in the intricate way where, one character subtly acting. And as a result of that, sometimes I'll use his instead of hers or hers instead of his. And my early access hasn't gone through an editor yet, but I'll still get, someone marking off 15. Oh, you did it here, and you did it there, and you did it the next spot. And I'm just like, sorry, but it's gonna happen. I've mentioned a few times that I don't really like micro editing, and I know a lot of people will, at best, they're insulted. Like, a lot of people are insulted when I don't appreciate it or I react negatively to receiving it, and I guess I can say I'm sorry. It's just I don't like to see my works getting micro edited. I know you think you're helping, but for me, at my stage in my life, I mean, I can hire an editor, and Ryan Okama is my editor, and I don't pay him a lot, and he does a lot for me, and I could pay a better editor, I guess, but there's not much else I could do other than getting the best editor there is, because of the nature of all this. I mean, I'm just the other thing is, a lot of people, when they compare my novels to these other books, you gotta consider my novel is a web novel, and a lot of the time you're comparing them to light novels. So once again, I said I always deal in web novels because web novels are fundamentally different than light novels, and one of the big differences is, I feel like I'm jumping from subject to subject here. I had points, and then I lost the points and moved on to the next subject. Anyway, what was I talking about again? I was sorry. Let's answer some questions. All right. Have you ever thought about getting crossover? Like, because there was a small joke I made in World of Women where it is actually Power of Creation. So my first book was Power of Creation. World of Women came a little after. And basically the creation story of how the world of women came into being was an event that occurred in Power of Creation, where the protagonist creates a giant penis and then has sex with an entire dimension, and then creates a wave of seed that washes over and wipes out the demons. And so this Power of Creation is pretty crazy. So that happened in there, and that's actually how WoW came to being. That was a joke, and not they were actually the same. But so many people took it so seriously that I don't see myself actually doing that. I don't see myself tying any of the stories together, because I do feel like some people take it a little too seriously. Nettori Isekai is only going to be about the protagonist. Yes, PG-13 was asking if Nettori Isekai is only about the protagonist king is Ghoststone. I kind of described it in my Discord. I got such an underwhelming response from it. There were a few guys who were big into Netterari and were going, "Oh yeah, you gotta write this. You gotta write this. You gotta write it." And so I thought of a subject, and I was thinking of writing it after Hero's Vengeance was done, and that was NTR Isekai. Those guys have since disappeared, so I don't know if I want to continue. And so I wrote the first chapter. I got part of the second chapter written. I could keep putting it out, but it is pure Netterari. It's just the guy loses everybody. It's just the brutal, him having his girls stolen from him and watching them. It has a complete story. Like, I've already thought out how each girl falls, what's going to happen, how each chapter goes, and, the ultimate conclusion, how it's all going to end. I can kind of just flat out say it. I've already said it on Discord. So while this is a spoiler, I'm still not thinking I'm going to be finishing it. And I have a good feeling anyone who watches this probably doesn't even want to read it. So I guess, I don't know, spoilers. If you really wanted to read it, NTR Isekai, you can shut up now. But the way the story was going to go was after the thing with his sister at the end of that chapter, he kind of the next girl, the shy girl that he hasn't slept with yet, she ends up getting kind of seduced by the church, and she kind of becomes like a church zealot, and eventually she is convinced to give up her virginity in lieu of the church. Kind of your traditional sacrifice a virgin, kind of thing, but sexually. And then, and that would be chapter 2. And then chapter 3, it would be his childhood friend would be seduced away. She was joining a party of the capable, the capable fighters, because she's a good fighter. And, she would, after various dangerous situations that she was put in with her party, she fell in love with the male guy in the party, and leaves him to be with that guy. Chapter 3 or chapter 4 would be a new girl who would be probably introduced in chapter 2, who's like obsessed with him. Like she's like kind of been pseudo stalking him in the previous life. He ends up trying to get with her because he's already lost his childhood friend and the girl he thought he was going to score with, and his girlfriend is being more and more distant because she's spending more and more time with the prince. So he kind of lowers himself to try to boost his self-confidence with her, and then she ends up getting with like an ugly otaku who ended up getting an ability that can like cause her, whatever, have great orgasms or something like that. It was going to be a guy with like an electric ability, but he has an ability to sexually satisfy her in ways no one else can. And then finally, the prince would manage to steal his girl away from him. And when he has a freak out about it and tries to basically get vengeance, the princess frames him for stealing something from the magic archives or something like that. And he gets kicked out of the castle. And basically, so he ends up walking away as all of his girls are canoodling with their new love while kind of glaring at him. So everyone hates him at this point and thinks and naturally they don't kick him out until he's finished doing the inventory for them. So his usefulness ended, so he's not allowed in the castle anymore. And then as he's walking away, he ends up having a moment where basically kind of a dark force says, "Do you want power?" or something like that. And then he says yes. So it's heavily implied that he becomes a demon lord. So right now this world doesn't have a demon lord, and it becomes more apparent that this is just an empire who is abusing slaves they summon from another world in order to continue to take over the world. So this NTR hero, this NTR Isekai guy, is going to become the demon lord ultimately that fights the empire and raises up demons or whatever. And that's how it ends. That's the end of the story. That's the big twist in the end, with that he's going to become the demon lord. It's heavily implied it will happen. So there you go. You don't have to read it if you didn't want to read it. If you didn't want to read a lot of NTR, a lot of Netherari, then you don't have to. Like I said, it was experimental. I just wanted to try something else out. A lot of people didn't like Please Help either. I wrote like 3 chapters of that, and then I stopped because people just didn't like something that dark. I occasionally like writing something that dark. I'm with you guys. I actually prefer happy endings, and I don't like reading things that are dark. But as a writer, I find more enjoyment out of writing things that can really be screwed up. Really, they're just more interesting. I don't know why. Alright, are you thinking about making another novel like MDL but different? Like more darker without harem? Without harem, well, I'd put harem in everything. I've considered writing something that doesn't have harem in it. I know a lot of people don't like harems, and so that's one of my things. Isekai and harems are kind of the 2 big things that got me into web novel reading in the first place. So I don't know. If you mean, I guess it depends what you mean by what do you like it. I mean, Enslaved is like MDL, if you want to be technical. It's a fantasy world with fantasy creatures and a bunch of girls. It's more serious, a little darker. The Tales series, Tales of a Seductress, Enchantress, and Demon Queen, that is also like MDL, except from a female point of view. And it also has all the stats and stuff. So that one's got stats. So Tales of Demon Queen is the last book. It is the conclusion. I've had the story. I know exactly what's going to happen for the end of the story. So it's just a matter of getting to the end. I had originally, when I designed Tales of an Enchantress, I had a lot more I planned to get into it, and I eventually got to like 60 chapters, and I got to 60 chapters, and I realized that there was a lot that I didn't have time to get to. And so I kind of rewrote the ending of Tales of Enchantress. You probably saw the preview I wrote between Tales of Seductress and Tales of Enchantress, and how it was nothing like what ultimately ended up in the book. And the reason that's the case is because those parts I couldn't get to yet. That'll actually end up happening more likely in the middle of Tales of a Demon Queen. It'll be like halfway through is when we're going to see that happen. In the end, it just... Tales of a Seductress was kind of the rise of the hero. Tales of the Enchantress was kind of her fall. And then Tales of the Demon Queen is going to be kind of the rise of, the Demon Queen. So that is how it's gonna go, and like I said, I know the ending. I don't know if you guys are gonna like the ending. I'm sure there's gonna be a couple. Both Moth and Tales of a Demon Queen, I have a very clear ending, and I don't know if people are gonna be happy with it, because it's one of those types of endings that tend to piss people off. And they're what I wanted to write, and they're what I'm gonna write, but I don't know. They might get pissed off about it. Will there be any pregnancy in Moth? No. Will there be any in Getting Lucky? Possibly. I don't really have any specific plans for Getting Lucky. It was just being written as something to give members that I don't give other public readers. It's really a story I'm just kind of going along as I go. It's already getting bloated with too many girls. I need to start pulling it back and just having him with the girls he already has. I've kind of been focusing on him and Connie the last chapter too, because I feel like we shouldn't add any more. What else? Most of what else I've read has to some reason I want to. The only ending I would be mad at is if it was all a dream. About that. So, yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it, but you might be mad. I recall an NTR. It's not all a dream for either of the stories, but you still might be mad. It's in the same vein, which is why I said I don't know if people are gonna be angry or not. I made a mistake, and I realized this I actually just realized this last night. I had someone do volume 3 for me, redo it, and there were two big mistakes I made in volume 3 carried over to volume 5. Things I literally just forgot existed. One thing is Mom's backstory. I totally forgot that she had explained how much of her backstory she had explained in volume 3. And then I had her do an almost identical scene in volume 5. And I've tried to rectify that the best I can. And so when I re-put out the ebooks for revision 2, I will be correcting that as best I can to try to rectify the two, because they're just off. I mean, they weren't like flat out just wrong, but they were off by enough. Like a lot of the things she said in volume 3, I just is not how I ended up going with the story in volume 5 when it was finally all revealed. Seductress is just depravity now. He wrote it as there was a typo. It was just that one chapter, and I changed the names. I have to tell you, I write bonus chapters for the sake of selling ebooks, but I really hate bonus chapters because they recall me having to put information, extraneous information, and I swear 90% of my continuity errors always come because of a bonus chapter. I'll say one sentence, one thing that just I forgot I wrote it in the bonus chapter, and then I'll be on to the next story and I'll refute it, and it'll end up being wrong, and it drives me crazy, and I'm sorry about it. Yeah, NTR had these major, and I only kind of realized, like I said, I just was going through volume 3 last night so that I can put it on Amazon, and that's when I noticed those errors. Goddess Seductress doesn't exist. It was supposed to be Goddess Depravity. He's the one who had what's the name of his thumb. I just forgot it was mentioned that was given a name, and it was specific. So there is no Seductress. Um, and then, like I said, I'm trying to rectify what she told Hakiro in Volume 3 with what she told Hakiro when she was drunk in Volume 5. Still, they're very similar scenes, like almost identical. One, she's drunk, and the other, she's just talking to him in the car after she saves him and he heard about Hellcat. And both of them are like I said, they're super similar, to the point where I almost just want to delete one of them, just delete the entire chapter and say, "Yep, I didn't write this." And then the Volume 5 is what I'm treating as canon. Volume 3, I already did some edits in it. So if you go to there now on my website, it should already be corrected. It's chapter 16, I want to say, and then the bonus chapter. Those are the two. I think they've already been corrected, but I only just did it last night. Here, let's look and see if I'm right about that. Volume 3, bonus chapter 3. I might not have corrected this one yet. I did it in the book. I don't know if I did it out here. Depravity. He's the one you should be worried about. His champion had mine under his thumb the entire time. So this is technically wrong because he has no champion, but I'm just going with Cuck didn't know that he didn't have a champion, that Depravity was just using himself. He actually was never really playing the game in the first place. We'll just go with Cuck didn't know that. Depravity's always been jealous over the hold he had over you. And he is not Depravity. He is talking about Harem, but at that moment in time, you don't know who Harem is. So, I already rewrote it. So, yeah, sorry. I know you guys like bonus chapters, but they do involve me putting a lot of information into them that I might change my mind on 2 volumes later when it actually is revealed to the main cast. And so I know a lot of continuity errors that I've had in the past have come from these bonus chapters. That's why a lot of them I try to distance as much as possible from the story, for MDL and stuff. What else we got? Anyway, NTR Crush is almost done. If you read me, you kind of know what direction it's going right now. It looks like I gotta update that. I didn't do that. This is how I update, by the way. See, I have to update everything. And, so when I say add a chapter, I have to do this 1 billion times a day. Not 1 billion, but every night. Yeah. Put that up there. Do that. Update. Now you actually get to see me working on the spot. So this is how I changed it. I have to manually change the tier from $5 to $2. And if I slip up and end up not hitting that before I hit update, if I forget to hit update, if I hit update and it doesn't update, it doesn't happen. So everyone who complains to me that the things don't get updated, that's because that's how it's just, it kind of, does it happen, does it not happen? It's very easy to not happen, and a little frustrating too. I've had ones where I've sworn, just absolutely sworn that I did it, and I got nothing. I don't know. Definitely frustrating. But you can schedule to do the change, but you need to have the paid for Patreon membership, which I did. I paid for it. I was happy to use it, but for whatever reason, Patreon and their Patreon Prime or their Patreon Plus or whatever they call the darn thing, are a different plugin. So it isn't just like you do the plugin and then it lets you have all access to all the other features. He actually fundamentally designed the plugin differently. And when he did that, he closed the hole that we were exploiting in order to be able to use the full frontal access. So you guys who use full frontal access are basically taking a back door through my Patreon and getting into it. And what he did is close the hole that allowed us to do that and screwed it up. So when I'm using Patreon Plus, my full frontal people can't access. And I have at least 300 patrons that use full frontal access, so it's kind of garbage that they can't. So that's the issue with that. There is an alternative that my programmer has offered me, and that alternative is we can. I didn't know we could do this before, but he says if I buy a good membership program, that he can set it up so that Patreon just sends the information to the program, and that program handles it. So rather than me backdooring into Patreon and having Patreon do all my locking, my website would do the locking, and it would just update the list from Patreon. So you become a member of Patreon, it would tell my website who's a member, and then my website would do all the locking. And naturally, it'd be a better membership program that I'm currently using. My current membership program is called Simple Membership, and it's Simple Membership. So all of you who have had trouble in the past, it randomly will it's not set up for little changes. Like if you want to move from $1 to $5 or $2 to $5, it doesn't do that easily. You usually have to cancel, wait a day, and then sign up to the other one. That's what I recommend people to do. And as far as prorating, forget it. You're not going to be prorated. A few people complain about that, like for $1, they'll have a freak out. But most people are pretty cool about it. If I got a better membership plan, then everything would work better. So I'm planning on doing that. The membership program I want, the plugin I want, it's $500 for a lifetime membership, or it'd be a yearly fee of like $200. I figure I might as well get the lifetime. I don't like it in yearlies. I prefer just to buy something and own it and not have to think about it again. So I might be trying that in the next week or two, I guess. Long story short. Not week or two, month or two. In the next month or two, I might be trying to change my membership to work better. And hopefully it'll resolve a lot of the problems we have. Because if it's a native membership that's handling all of your stuff, then Patreon and their random API shutdowns and all the other crap they have shouldn't be a problem. As long as I can update my list. So when you guys come over here, it says, yes, you're a member. Then it should be good. Should be no problem. What is most popular on my site? That's actually an interesting question. I can actually look up that answer right now. You're saying it's the second most viewed. I don't know if that's true or not. Here's my views. This is my stats, which I'm not sure if it's gonna load. It is not loading. Lovely. Gotta love when your stats don't load. There we go. Anyway, I get anywhere from 8,000 to about 15,000 views a day. So that's my good views. I actually have much higher views back when I was doing Airforetta. Anyway, most popular. Looks like NTR Crush has the most views right now. It's even more popular than my Dungeon Life, at least for today. I guess it makes sense because last night, Friday night, is when the new chapter came out. But there was a new chapter for my Dungeon Life too. I don't know. Man of the House is pretty high too. World of Women. They're all pretty high. I'd say Man of the House is probably the most viewed right now. Just because the individual chapters have more views on them. I don't know. That's my logic to it. And as you can see here, most people come from Machine Sliced Bread. A few come from Scribble Hub. Less come from Royal Road. So I don't attract very many views from Royal Road. It's just the way it is. Other posts. So yeah, all the stories I'm writing right now seem to be doing pretty popular. Oh, I got a good amount of people watching Isekai no... Isekai no... This actually worries me, because I don't update this link. I better update this link if that many people are viewing at it. This just leads me to a list right here. Oh, it doesn't look that bad. I thought it looked uglier than this. It looks okay. It's still not completely updated. I should update it. It's basically if you click here or here, you get the list. I thought it looked like this. This is what my original novels list looks like. It's from when I ported my site over. After it got shut down, I never fixed this, and I've been meaning to. I could really use just like an assistant who went around, fixing all this stuff for me. How is making money in the Apocalypse going on those other sites? Good question. I heard that on Royal Road it hit the top. It hit one of their top 30 lists or something, but I don't really see where these come from. Ooh, I just got a review. Trash. There you go. Badly written. An improvement over story similar to Mansion and Apocalypse. 2.5 stars. Basic concept. Lol incest. 3.5 stars. Yeah, you gotta love my reviewers. Incest, sexist, rubbish. Not worth reading. Don't waste your time. Made for perverts by perverts. Well, I agree with that one. So he's at least got that going on. Just check out Summon Imp instead. I wouldn't be surprised if you did the look and this guy was the one who wrote Summon Imp. But yeah, you never know. Is it 25th on trending? Yeah. Regular life. Basically, people who don't like incest. Like, the thing is, I would put an incest tag on it, but there's no like, I couldn't. There was no way to do it. Anyway, it's doing 4 stars, so it's not doing the worst. It could be doing worse. It's got 350 followers. Yeah, My Dungeon Life, as long as it's going, only has 1,000 followers. It's just not doing that great. I don't do good on Royal Road. Just people, I don't know, gave up on chapter 3. That's the funny thing you'll find with a lot of these reviews. The ones who always have the worst reviews, like these guys will always be like as far as the chapter is, and all the bad ones will be chapter 2. Well, he got to chapter 26. Chapter 1, chapter 1, trash. In other words, this guy never read this, never looked at it, just immediately decided to trash it. You can tell that right there. And then MDL. Oop, that's not MDL. That's MDL. MDL is similarly trash. So if you thought that was going to alarm me and make me sad, I can just tell you that MDL doesn't do any better. It's should I read it? 2.5 star. Could be decent. 3. The original is bad and the remake is worse. This is a terrible story. Chapter 1. It's a 500-word chapter. He only made it to chapter 1 before he decided. This is why you know these people never freaking read this. I mean, you just know. Bad. Reviewed at chapter 4. Mind you, since I put 3 chapters at a time, that means it's by the second the second go, it's already a terrible story. So yeah, I got a few 5 stars. Most of them are from you guys. Every time I show people this, a few people who are my fans run over and give it a 5-star because they feel bad for me. But I'm used to it at that point. Anyone who says I can't take criticism, I mean I don't even respond to those people at this point. That's Scribble Hub ain't much better. If you were hoping that Scribble Hub had people, even though those people are more prone to liking sex, you're still gonna get people who just hate it and just want to slam it. So there you go. That's how good it's doing. I put a lot of things out on here. This is how my Dungeon Life 3 and 8 stars. It gets a lot of hate. 2 stars. Actually, it's pretty much 5 stars from there. Yeah, that's not bad. It did for a while. Just was only the 2 stars, but I guess enough people mentioned it. Probably only read a chapter 1, of course. Yeah, my ratings are just trashed, and what happens is, and I know this for I'm fairly certain of this. I've been able even to prove it a little bit. Like at the time when I first started releasing this Lunatics guy here, he popped up and he started slamming my story every chapter. And you would take the bait and argue with him. And he sounds way better than the premise promised, and yet you're still going to give it a 2-star? I found out that Lunatics is the name he uses for a second account for his site, and we were able to track it down and prove it and everything. He was actually the one who was first. He was in first place on the main website when I started getting popular. So he was right here, and I knocked him off the list. And then suddenly he started slamming my chapter every volume, or every chapter he started writing a comment slamming my story, and then wrote a 2-star review. Yeah, I bet that was genuinely what he felt. He was trying to help me as an author, I'm sure. So what happens is there's a lot of these authors, and I'm using quotation marks. You can't see that, but they are very, very childish, and they will go after anyone they feel threatened by. So, meh. Now, if you go by all-time popularity, I'm 7th on the list, even with my 3.8. I don't know why I garnered so much hate. Nothing else has that much hate, but there are people. I did a few experiments on Scribble Hub. So when I first started writing this, I decided to put the erotica behind a paywall, and that pissed people off to no high end. So I eventually gave it back to them, and I said, hey, if you can undo all these negative reviews that you gave to me and bring my score back up to a certain amount, then I will release the erotica. That pissed him off even more, because I was asking for something. I was asking you to undo the thing you already did in order to give you the thing you want. So then I just gave it to him, like, fine, whatever, you guys can have the erotica. And a little later on, I just got pissed at some of the things, because this was around the time Lunatics was slamming it, and I was just like, look, I'm not gonna release this. No, what happened was I found somebody was making PDFs off of my Dungeon Life and giving them away, and that pissed me off. And because I make money off my ebooks, and that's one of the, considering I give this stuff away for free, me being able to sell it as a b-book is one of the main ways I was able to make money off of it, and that pissed me off. So I stopped giving the book away for public. I made it that the reason there is so many chapters behind a paywall. It was originally a free public story, but after they started making PDFs off of it and distributing it, I stopped releasing chapters for a while, for a couple volumes. Basically, I said I would start once I had as many ebooks out as I had chapters. So I was like up to chapter or volume 3 at that point. So once I had all 3 volumes out, I was going to start releasing it. And that's what I did. Except I only give them 1 a day instead of 3 a day. They complained about 3 a day. They didn't like it. They whined and they moaned, and they wanted it so that when you had they want longer chapter. It's like, oh, don't do 3 a day. You gotta do a longer. Like, I didn't write this to be a longer chapter. I wrote these to be little short 600-word chapters. I can write 3 of them a day because they're so short. But this story was always designed to have these kind of short micro chapters. It's to give this story kind of this feeling of a frantic, pacing and being able to cover a subject per chapter, so everything's kind of a bite of information. And it's just how I develop that story. When I pick stories, how long the chapters are is one of the things I decide on. Apocalypse, the chapters are 1,500 words. I mean, it's just what I write. It's how I write that story. It's how I decided to write that story. Moth, they're 2,000. Wow, they're 4,000. Although lately I've been on the lower side. I've struggled to get to... After so much writing these smaller chapters, I'm having a hard time getting to 4,000 words. It used to be a lot easier. So WoW is usually like 3,500 words or something like that these days. But that's just how I write the stories. It's how I develop them. It's how I consider them in my mind. And that's ultimately what I put out. But some people just hate my dungeon life because the chapters are short. They hate it because it wasn't erotica, or because it was erotica, or because blah, 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 blah. I don't know. So, I guess, long story short, that's why it has a number 7 on popularity, while still simultaneously being the lowest scored story there. For some reason people hate it. Shrug. And by favorites, I don't know. Is it anyone's favorite? Number 11. It's still, yeah, a lot of my stories do okay, but they are never on the daily anymore. None of them. Oh, it's number 8. Wait, if it's on daily, is it, but not weekly? Because I haven't seen it in the top. How can it be on the daily most popular, but not on the weekly? How does that work? How is it so low on the list for weekly? I almost wonder if they deliberately pulled it off in order to make room for newer stories. Like, they didn't want the same stories on forever, and so they did something to the algorithm that forced mine off the list. I don't know. I have no clue. That is weird. Because the weekly, I'm nowhere. I mean, if I was the top 8 for daily, how am I... If I'm the top 8 for daily... And monthly, I'm top 14, and all time, I'm top 11. Then why am I nowhere in weekly? Like, how does that work? I'm not seeing this by accident. I mean, am I missing my story there? I mean, how can I be top for monthly, all-time, and daily, but weekly, i.e. the one they put on the homepage, this is their weeklies. This is their, what they put here trending is the same as weekly, I think. Yeah, the popular weekly. Maybe? No. Maybe it's trending something different. Where am I in weeklies? That is very weird. Anyway, that was interesting. I only just noticed that. That's why I was making a deal of it. I'm not that. I don't care. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm doing well. You guys, my fans, have been extremely supportive, and I do really appreciate everything everyone's done. I know I rant a lot, but I have fun. I enjoy ranting, so that's part of the reason I do it. I even appreciate people who micro edit. I don't want to see your micro edits. You can put them in Discord. You can put them under report corrections. I do not see them in report corrections because I do not have report corrections like notify me. I leave that entirely 100% to Ryan Akama. But I appreciate everyone who's ever left anything that helps correct and improve the writing. Especially plot holes. I really don't like plot holes. I am less enthused if you want to correct a period or you want to correct a she or a he. But if you find like something that conflicts with something else, like I would have really appreciated if someone, pointed out in volume 5 that it completely conflicts the story from volume 3 for NDR Crush. That would have been nice. But no one said anything, and hopefully that just means no one noticed. Because yeah, there was quite a bit of contradiction between those two stories. You could say one of those stories she was drunk, and the other story maybe she was lying in one of them. But oh well. NTR Crush gonna end at volume 6. WoW is gonna end in about 20 chapters. It's gonna have one more volume. Before I do that final volume, there will be Enslaved Volume 3. So you'll get to do that one. Sex Trafficking for Dummies. I only do this between NTR Crush volumes. It was always just done as a... Basically, whenever I finish a volume, a lot of people would take off. This is probably not as big of a deal now, but 6 months ago, whenever I finish a volume, you always feel like this was an accomplishment. You want to be rewarded for this. I finished something, but in practice, what happens is all the Patreons leave because the story's done and they don't want it anymore. And it's like, well, you're not releasing anything. Why would I continue to follow you? So what happened was I'd feel pressured to keep releasing. And that's kind of part of what happened. So I was talking about World of Women and how people kind of burned me out of it. Part of the reason World of Women I got so burned out was because I kept writing. So I wrote World of Women Volume 1 really quickly. And then almost without a break, I went on to Volume 2 because people started dropping me and I lost like $400 or $500. And at the time, that was basically put me from being able to afford my bills to being able to not afford my bills. And so I jumped into Volume 2. And then it happened again at the end of Volume 2. So I jumped into Volume 3. And about the midpoint of Volume 3 was when I started making enough money that even if there was a drop, it wasn't going to hurt me. So, but I ended up writing all 3 of these volumes basically back to back without a single break. And so part of the reason the story has the issues it does is because I wasn't allowed to take any breaks and think about the story and structure a new story and come up with anything else. That has not been the case with Volume 4. But at this point, World of Women is... it is what it is. So people are either going to stick with it to the end or they've already abandoned it in 2 or 3. So, whatever. Done is done. I liked how Volume 3 ended. I think I brought everything together. I thought it was a very good ending. So while I say things like I don't like writing it and it's weird, I'm not saying, flat out that this was a bad book and I wrote it poorly and you should think of it that way. I think I did my best. I think there are choices I might have made differently. that was one of the things I was saying earlier that I got sidetracked on. With web novels, you're writing back to back, and you just keep writing. So it's very difficult. Like when you write a light novel, you've already had a chance to go back and put everything together and go to the beginning and see how things kind of progress, and then put in little, foreshadowing and all this other fun stuff. With a web novel, I got a one shot. So if I write myself into a hole, I gotta find a way to dig myself out of it. If I put something into a chapter, I either have to retcon it and just change it, which I've done a few times when I've had to, or I have to just live with the decision I made and find some way that it still makes logical sense in my story. So you really get one time. So you can imagine how tough that can be, and how judging a web novel story at the same caliber as a published story is kind of eh. And I know I publish my stories, but they're really self-published, and I do distribute everything for free eventually. All of my stuff is going for free. I know I've talked a few times about not doing it for free, about charging more. There's been a lot of people who've tried to encourage me to do that. And part of the reason I don't is because I don't have this big editing process where I rewrite the stories and completely correct them and refine them and make them clear. They are, at heart, web novel stories that I'm distributing for free. I put them into PDFs and sell them because A, that's a way for me to make money off of something I'm giving away for free, and B, it's a means of people want it. People want ebooks. So there's some people who just don't want to read online at all. So I do this for you guys, and I do this for me, and I make the ebooks, but ultimately I don't see them as finished, edited. I'm still coming out with revisions, even when I put the ebooks onto Amazon. The ones on Amazon do go through an extra layer of editing, and I go through them several more times, and I try to make sure they're at the best, and they are revision 2 of my ebook. And so I've been doing revision 2s for a lot of things. Volume 1, I think, got a new revision. Most of the MDLs up to volume 6 have gotten a new revision. I usually do that when I update with the erotic pictures. So that's all been part of that process. But anyway, why not do rants on various things on YouTube? That is a good question. The main reason I don't rant on stuff is because I just don't want it to become too political. I don't consume enough media. I think that I can remain relevant as a pop culture commentator. A lot of these other pop culture commentators kind of... And I don't really have a good amount of it. One of my problems is my editing and video making skills. I just don't know if I have the time for it with what I'm doing to write. So, you guys know I'm writing about 2 novels a month. I mean... Stephen King writes about a 70,000 word novel, and he'll write two a year, and I'm writing 2 of those a month. So the amount of level I'm writing is insane for an author. Most of you kind of know that, and once again, I hope that kind of puts an understanding to the quality of this. This is all work I'm putting out, and I do get an editor to go through it, but it's not like... I try to keep an interesting story. Sometimes they're not the most refined work that they could be, and I could do better. I believe I could. But at the volume, I picked volume over quality. And some people say, well, why don't you just make a super quality? And the answer to that is because I don't see the money coming in for the quality. Because ultimately, whether I can write the highest quality story I can write, but people... First of all, people just want a daily thing to read that's interesting and fun. They don't... They like the McDonald's trashy garbage. And while, yeah, there's these nice, clear, fun stories that take 5 years to write, they take 5 years to write. For me, I've always been a volume over quality kind of person. In video games, when you give me a gun, I prefer the guns that shoot really fast and do a little bit of damage than the guns that do a lot of damage and shoot very slowly. That's just who I am. So, like, I don't necessarily say that just because I'm able to pump out a lot of story necessarily means, and once again, I'm not saying anything I write is bad. I think my stories, I think my stories are as good as any other author's stories, but they aren't as refined. I'm not sending them to, and I would love to get a publisher, but they are not going to be interested in something like World of Women. They're not going to be interested in most of my stories that have, incest and stuff in it. One of the reasons, Easy Making Money in the Pocket was getting so badly slammed is because of the incestuous undertones. I didn't even think about it. I've been writing so many stories with incest into them that when I put, the big sister and the mom with the pseudo incest stuff, I mean, this was not intended as an adult novel. It's just an original novel, and all of that's just kind of fan service I threw in for fun, because I know my people who like that. But it did not even occur to me that if I was trying to put this towards people who like people from Royal Road, that incest would bother people, that kind of stuff would bother people. And you saw the reviews, you saw just how bothered everyone was from it. And yeah, I feel a bit foolish. I'm so used to it at this point, just dropping that kind of stuff in there. So that's probably the reason I've never seen an agent. That's probably the reason that I've never gotten, the editors that'll... Because that you got an editor, and then you got an editor. Normal editor, just fixes your grammar up. But a true editor actually goes through and helps you refine your story and make it better. And I know my guy doesn't do that. And I'm just... Because it's a web novel, it doesn't happen. And I don't want the novel I'm putting out publicly to differ that much from the novels I'm selling you, because you guys just want to buy the ebook and you want to read it offline. You don't want a completely different story. I mean, when you get a web novel that's translated on the internet versus an LN, those are two different beasts. A lot of the times they've been completely refined and redone and all this other stuff. But that does not happen. That does not happen in my stories, and I don't think you guys would even want that to happen. Because I could completely write volume 1 of World of Women and change all the things people hate about it and refine it. In fact, right now I'm doing, and you guys, most of you probably know this, but there is a comic book out for World of Women, which I'm selling in my store. This one. This is issue 5 going through, and it is basically volume 1, but I've actually been cutting it down and refining it and cutting out a lot of the extraneous crap. And it's gonna only be about 10 issues for all of World of Women volume 1, the entire novel. That 180,000 word novel. I can pull that off in 10 issues. It might end up being 11 or 12 issues, but yeah, that's half done already. And I'm gonna cut out things like there's not gonna be Nada or Varys, the maids, and that whole rape thing. That was all cut out. I kind of shortened a lot of the stuff. So basically, the issue he's writing right now is going to end with Rose showing up, the aunt, and the next issue is going to be leading up to the reveal that Morgan's pregnant and stuff like that. So all that is in a comic that's going to be a lot more refined than this, because they're a different beast. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is I wouldn't rewrite World of Women, as a different story and then try to sell as the ebook, because you'd probably want to read it how I originally wrote it. So, I don't know. That was the point I was trying to make. We're going on almost 2 hours here. So I guess I've said most of what I wanted to say. Just to repeat myself, or bar repeating myself, World of Women will be done Volume 5. My Dungeon Life, forever. Power of Creation, I started re-releasing that with changing the U to I, so it was in first person, because a lot of people hated it, and that's been releasing on Scribble Hub. I stopped because I reached a point where the story changes were sufficient that I basically need to rewrite a bunch of chapters, and I just haven't had the time and haven't had the ability. So I've been putting off Power of Creation. NTR Crush will end this volume. Man of House, I've decided that is going to end. It's just going to be one book. It'll be about 80 to 100 chapters. I can't tell you how many until it gets there. Enslaved will start up once again once World of Women is done. Sex Trafficking, it will start up after NTR Crush, but ultimately I have to decide if I want to start a new novel or what. So one of the big things that's going to happen in December with my next big survey is I'm going to be asking questions like what stories you want to pick up. I have 3 devil stories that I've written. People are saying, oh, you've started so many stories. Technically, all 3 of those are the same story. So, Hellbound, maybe less Hellbound, but there's a couple of other stories I put out. Like I put out a story recently that had a devil character, and I have another story. Do I have it in here? No, I don't. Anyway, I had Friend Zone, and then I wrote another story, and then I wrote a third story, and all of those stories are basically the same story, just different versions of it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. Sorry about that. Anyway, novels. I feel like those 3 stories I wrote, one of them Friend Zone, one of them I just put out, and then there was a third one in there. They're all the same story, just different versions, different setups. So I if you can get it, I kind of want to write a devil story with kind of something kind of like Enma, and the Enma from Machine Sliced Bread. So I kind of want to write something like that, and those were 3 ideas I had. Friend Zone seems to be doing the best popularity-wise, so I might do a survey and ask about that. There's also Hellbound, which is a story that I kind of like to see. And then there's I Reincarnated in the Hero's Former Body. I did a second chapter of that to see if people, once it went on a little more, were more interested in that. They're all kind of preparing for what do you want after NTR Crush. So that's going to be that question. And honestly, I might even be able to start 2 stories, because there might be another what do you want after Tales of a Demon Queen. Demon Queen's going to have 70 or 80 chapters, so at one a week, it's going to be 2 years about before I'm done, unless I suddenly pick up the pace for some reason. So this ain't going to be done anytime soon. But Moth should be done early next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if NTR Crush is close to being done at the end of this year, so around December. So I'll be looking to replace Moth, and I will be looking to replace NTR Crush with a new story. And you guys got to help me decide what story you want me to do. Getting Lucky will just continue on. My Dungeon Life will just continue on. WoW and Enslaved will keep going back and forth until they're done. Enslaved will probably be similar to NTR Crush. It'll have 5 to 6 volumes. And WoW will have 5 volumes. Apocalypse, a lot of people have just been treating it like it's already dead. I do have like 10 to 20 chapters of the next volume written, and I like the story, and I like where it's going. But you saw people's comments about it, and those have been the comments I've been getting, which is a bit not what I was hoping for. I was hoping it'd be popular, I was hoping it'd be liked, but I guess I really erred by putting incest into it. Is my stuff blurry? You're asking about 1080p? Yeah, I like the Satan one. I didn't really like the Friend Zone one too much. I was thinking of putting them together. Like, I like the one with I liked putting it on the girl, where it's the girl who has to chase the guy. It's just kind of like Moth. I mean, it's what a lot of people like about Moth, where the girl is pursuing the guy. But in this case, she doesn't like him and doesn't want to be around him, but she's going to pursue him. And, I don't know. Okay, so anyone... I didn't mention this about Apocalypse, but I mentioned it before in my newsletters. Apocalypse currently is releasing publicly on Scribble Hub and Royal Road. Once 41 chapters come out, I'm going to ask if people want to join me at my Patreon in order to see it come. If a goal is reached, that goal is probably going to be around 1,250 people. So right now I have 1,088. So if 150 people join, just $2 donations. I'm not asking. I want more fans. I don't want more money. I'm actually quite content with the amount of money I have. Like I said, right at the moment, I'm more interested in being more well seen and more popular than being supported, financially. You guys have, I appreciate so much how much financial support people have given me. This has been the crappiest year for everyone, and I kind of skimmed through it as being one of the best years financially for me ever, because this has gotten to a point where I'm fairly successful as a writer. I'm very well supported, and if my support does not increase at all for the rest of my life, I would probably be fine. That's the level I'm at right now. It's about the level I would be making with my doctorate. I'll say that. And anyone who says, "Oh, you must be making tons," scientists don't make crap. I'll just tell you that. Even with a doctorate, scientists are one of the poorest paid professions. But that's still, as a doctorate, you're making a fair amount of money. So I am making a good amount of money. Anyway, see, I keep getting off topic. Apocalypse right now is releasing publicly to try to drive people to come to my membership. If it succeeds, I will pick it up and start releasing it like I did back then. It'll be like an extra chapter every day, which will be very taxing. But if I have that many more fans, then I would say it'd be worth it. I don't expect it to succeed based on how well it's doing on Royal Road and Scribble Hub. It has not been particularly popular. So, in that case, what's going to happen is that it will be released come the NTR Crush and Moth when those start going out. So while I was saying I'm looking for another story, it's very likely possible Apocalypse is going to replace NTR Crush. It's going to be the new... They might overlap a little bit. Like, I might just start releasing chapters of NTR Crush. Or I might start releasing chapters of Apocalypse because Apocalypse is already out. Like, I already have them written. So if I just released one a week until NTR Crush is done, and then maybe pick it up to twice a week, that would be something I could do. So that might be what I do. And then I'll ask that in the December survey if that's what you want. Although, by then it might be too late. By then I might already be releasing Apocalypse. So for the moment, with Apocalypse, Public is going to finish first. I'm going to ask people, give them a month to join me. So that'll probably be next month. It'll probably finish next month, and I'll ask people to join me next month. And then on the 11th, November, I will probably start releasing It's Not Easy Making Money in the Apocalypse once a week until NTR Crush is done. And then I will either pick it up to twice a week, or I will pick something else up if that's what people would prefer. On your main page, the link to Apocalypse is broken. The one under publicly releasing. Yeah, I don't know why. I did it the way he told me to do it, and it doesn't work. So I need to talk to Zev about that. Why Sunday? But that's not how it's supposed to be set up. See, otherwise this would bring you to every other Sunday. I don't know. He showed me how to do links. I did it how you're supposed to do links, and for some reason this one doesn't work that way. So that's something I need to talk to Zev about. I have noticed it once or twice. It just hasn't been a major deal. For me, I presume everyone uses this for the most part. I guess some people use this stuff. I guess some people go to adult novels since it's one of the higher clicked links. So I probably should update adult novels. I should update my tags too. I'm really bad about updating tags. I don't even think about tags. I've tried to get people to do it for me, and it always falls through, and they just don't. I've tried to get a lot of people to help me do with the tags. The tags, the summaries, the updating. There's a lot of little knick-knack things that the site needs, but with me writing at the writing I'm doing, I usually don't get to them. And I know I'm not always writing the things you want me to be writing, but I'm not a robot. I keep saying this, I'm not a printer. So sometimes I just need a break mentally from a story. I mean, there might be times when I get really into it, and I'm like, yeah, next chapter. But there are times where I'm just like, I cannot write another chapter of Moth. And I kind of got that way with Moth, because I have an extra chapter left I have to write from the bonus. Basically, someone paid me for 10 chapters, and I've given them 9. I have to give them one more. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there are still 3 chapters I haven't done for The Last Dread Pirate. I'm going to try to get those out this month. I'll get at least one out. It might take till next month before they're all done. Hopefully The Last Dread Pirate will go faster than Moth, because I haven't been writing a lot of The Last Dread Pirate, so I've kind of been able to rejuvenate. Where Moth, I have to put it out weekly, so having to put out 2 out weekly is kind of run me dry. And like I said, I know where the story's kind of going and how it's going to end, but you get worn a bit with the same story constantly. I mean, that's the trick I have to being able to write. And I know there are people out there who are like, just write the one story, write it all, get it done. But I have no advantage for doing that. And it sounds kind of cruel or capitalist of me, God forbid. But I don't make money that way. If I just focused on one story and wrote it all until it was done and then released it all to you guys, then you just go and stop supporting me because your story you wanted to read's done. But so yeah, it's advantageous to me to have a lot of stories of interest kind of going concurrently, and I don't know who these people are who seem to think that, these stories should be done like, like the snap of a finger. Because, I mean, I get a volume up, and a volume is the equivalent of a book. I mean, some of mine are 150,000, 160,000. These are big books. These are books you'd read from, like Wheel of Time, Game of Thrones. I mean, these are fantasy epic size numbers that I'm writing here. And I put them out on them. I put out at least one book a month, like as a PDF ebook, and people will complain because it takes 6 months to get a book out, and I'm like, what stories do you read where you're getting a book launched every other month? I guess that's what LNs do, isn't it? I don't know. How fast do LNs come out? Are they coming out every 2 months, or are they coming out every, I don't know. Goosebump book. I always go with R.L. Stine because he was one of the most prolific writers that I knew. He was the one who did all the Goosebump books. And at his best, he was releasing a book every other month. So, but his books were only 19,000 words. And my books, like my Dungeon Life, is most of them are 40,000 words, but they can get as large as 80,000 words for the longer ones. So I feel like I'm doing fine, but I get a lot of people like and I think you guys probably don't see them most of the time because these are comments I read in my exit surveys and things like that. That's where I get these, people who say I'm not going to support him because he's not writing what I want fast enough, and I'm like, you're only paying $2 a month. I mean, it's just like, even if I got the story done in 6 months and you paid $12, that's the price of a book you would have gotten at the bookstore, Just saying. Anyway, I don't have any ghostwriters. I've tried it twice, and it wasn't for any book you've seen here. I've tried a ghostwriter. Actually, it is for I had such trouble finishing the last chapter of A Hero's Vengeance. It was taking so long. I wanted a ghostwriter to write the sex scene for me. So this is funny for the people who didn't hear this. So I put in my order on Fiverr. And so Fiverr is where you can find people, the ghostwriters or whatever, and pay them to write something. So I find someone, and I basically just ask them, I just need the sex scene. I'm going to write all the story around it, and I'm not even going to use your sex scene. I just need you to write a sex scene so that I can kind of follow logistically, what happens, moving positions, whatever. Because sometimes with sex scenes, it's so, once you've written one sex scene, you've written them all. And it's very difficult for me to write very complex, long-winded sex scenes because it's kind of like you've been there, you've done that, and it just all feels repetitive. So I like to shake things up by using it. One way my wife recently revealed to me is to just get a manga and describe what's happening in the manga. So, one of the Diojins, or whatever you call it, Dioshin, I know I'm butchering the name, but the erotic fictions, and then just describe, what's going. And that kind of works, but 9 out of 10 times I can't even find the scene I want to describe. It's like if I'm looking for missionary, all I can find is doggy. If I'm looking for a blowjob, all I find is whatever deep throat. Anyway, so I have trouble with erotic scenes because they're mind numbing. They're not creatively satisfying, I should say. So I'll go on and I tried to find a ghostwriter, and I tried this twice. And the second time, the guy sends me back, this work, and I'm like, this is nothing like I described. Just like nothing, just like complete. And so I very sincerely, this is what I want. And I'm basically describing a hero's vengeance. And I'm like, I want a protagonist named this, doing this, blah, 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 blah. And what they end up sending me is my story. They sent me the first 3 chapters of A Hero's Vengeance. Flat out. As their work that they wrote for me. So, yeah. I did some looking and some digging on the first story they sent me, and I was actually able to find the woman on Literotica who had written that. So this guy made a living out of, basically, you asked for a story, he tried to find one with the tags you wanted, and then he'd rip it off of Literotica and then give it to you as his written work. And most of the ghostwriters on that site do that. So, no, he didn't know he was plagiarizing me. Obviously, why would he send me the thing I paid for by sending me my own work? It'd be like if a teacher gave you an assignment and then you took her assignment, like the one she did, as the key, and just handed it into her and scribbled out the word key, and wrote your name and then handed it back to her. And that was what the equivalent of it would have been like. Just curious, any plans on continuing Timefall Saga? I am so glad that you like Timefall Saga. It is my baby. It is the story I most wanted to tell. That I stumbled with. The biggest problem with picking it up and writing it again is that I wrote it total Western style. It was not intended as an isekai. And it was not written as it was written before I ever went to the site. It was before I was on Wattpad. Before I read a single isekai, before I even watched anime, is when I was writing this. I wrote this shortly after my child passed away. It was it was about 8 years ago when I said I could either get more into my writing and try to become a writer, or I can try to get my doctorate. And in the end, I spent 7 years trying to get my doctorate and somehow ended up a writer. Go figure. But I'm not sure if I could write in the same, it's been so long since I wrote that I've adapted a lot of the writing abilities or the writing of the Eastern novels, and I've had some people criticize me and say, "Oh, he's just not good at Western writing," or it's very deliberate that I word my stuff and make it sound like an Eastern novel, like a light novel. I'm not doing that because I'm inexperienced and I'm making it what I'm used to reading. I'm actually much more used to reading Western novels, or I used to be, but for the last 4 years I've kind of thrown myself into isekai and Chinese web novels and things like that, and I've adopted that voice. So going back to Timefall Saga, I'd have to regain my kind of Western writing. I mean, if that makes sense, I would have to relearn how to do that. So that's, it's a barrier that I worry about, because Meridine and the characters in that, she's not, they're not gonna be those, oh, she blushes and goes pervert or anything like that. There's not gonna be, scenes of a lot of the even just the things they say, like idiot or things like that. I mean, those wouldn't exist in this novel. It's just that was not the way the novel was written. It was written with a very Western. It was written a lot like Wheel of Time. I mean, that's actually what I wrote when I wrote this novel. That was what I had in mind. I wanted a science fiction version of Wheel of Time, and so all those chapters have been written back then, and I'm just not sure if I could write. I would love to, but I put out, 43 chapters, and no one on my site looked at them. They, even to this day, if you look down at I guess you can't, but I might have one or two comments on each chapter, but the smiley blades, or what, smiley blade, the emoticons, I think would have you'd only see like 5 or 6 people have read it. It's just it sucks that it didn't. If everyone had been reading it and it was popular while I was releasing it, my last chapter came out in November of 2019. If it was popular, people would have been looking at it, then I would have kept writing it. But what do you think? Timefall? They thought it would be like NTR Crush should have NTR. I think it's just not erotica. And another thing, a lot of people don't like hotness. But if you go, hotness is a popular story. You guys might not realize this because you go, why is he writing hotness? No one likes hotness. All the surveys, people hate hotness. Why is he writing? A, I already wrote it. It was one of the first stories I wrote. And B, on Wattpad, it's actually pretty popular. Number 27 in parody. And this is, years after I stopped release. I haven't released it. Well, not years. I haven't released a chapter in quite some time. But it's, 27 in parody, 19 in satire. It used to be higher when I haven't released for like a month or two because I'm between volumes right now. But no, this is a very loved story for the Wattpad community. Not a single one of those people will give me $1, but I get 18 stars. That's like 18 thumbs up. I got 5 comments. There are a lot of people who like my story. Not you guys. None of you guys. You guys just want my adult stories. You don't want hotness, sadly. Because it's the girl protagonist, because Tales does alright for itself. It's not as popular, but it does alright. But hotness gets nothing. Like in any of my surveys, it's nothing. But all the people on Wattpad, not a one of them will give me a dime for hotness. It gets no financial support. So that's why it's being released, and that's why it's still around, is because there are a lot of fans who like it and who want it to come out. And it's already written, and I'm just releasing what's already been written. And the reason I'm not doing more with it is because no one here and no one who pays for it is willing to support it. And that's the same with all these. Timefall Saga, no one wants to support it. Requiem to the Stars. This story is not much different than Enslaved. It involves a strong male protagonist who is assertive, and no one looks at it. It's just because it doesn't have erotica in it. And it's funny, because my dungeon life has almost no erotica in it. Yeah, lately I've been putting more into the story than in the original volumes, but those first 4 volumes or so, that one sex scene was all there, and even that I didn't put it as part of it. I put it as like an aside. So it's like, this was not a sex novel. My Dungeon Life is not an adult novel. It's a normal novel that I just slid the chapters and told you it was an adult novel, and it does great. It's like, I've almost considered getting rid of the adult novel section, just blending the two together, and just leaving it at that. I could write a sex scene for Requiem to the Stars. Well, would putting one adult scene in there mean you guys would start looking at it again? I don't know. Because there's nothing wrong with the story. I guess you could say Clippy's a little annoying, but she's kind of an anime girl. That was kind of the point. Is she's one of those. But I don't know. That's kind of my feeling on it. Where the reason I don't do that is I actually do a fear that if I get rid of the word adult, that it's actually going to cause my traffic to go down. That's how important it seems that adult is to this site. But Rise of the Midnight King is very adult. But I've never advertised it as an adult, and it doesn't do well. It'd be nice if it's full of sex humor. But it has never had an explicit sex scene. And you go, oh, that's because he's too young. Yeah, you guys liked World of Women. That's what exploded in the first place with popularity. And that, had a 12-year-old. And right now he looks like he's 13. He's actually only 9, but he has the body of a 13-year-old. So, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these stories had promise, but they just didn't pick up, either because I didn't release them rapidly enough or because I didn't call them adult. I swear the only difference between some of these stories and my dungeon life is I didn't call them adult. I didn't call Rise of the Midnight King adult. I didn't call Reckoning of the Stars adult. I didn't call Apocalypse adult. And boom, they just don't do as well. I don't know. That's my thought. I think Rise of the Midnight King is very fun. It's a extreme comedy, and I've asked people what they have a problem with, like why they don't like it, and some of the answers I get is, oh, it'll take too much chapters before it'll get started. I'm like, yeah, but if it was supported, it'd be getting chapters. It would already be on chapter 100 if you guys actually supported it. What else? There's some people say, oh, it's because he started out too young. Like I said, Clybourne was 12. There's other stories that have had him start out, and he's already grown up. Like by this age, he's already a 13-year-old, a teen. He's already made out with a girl once, and it's only going to get edgier from there. I like the story. I had a lot of fun writing it. I wish I could write more of it. It is a longer story. I always am kind of a little cautious about long stories because 300 words or 3,000 words is my longer stories. I got some comments recently. Good novel. Yeah, that novel's not on hiatus. But this guy was asking. It's not on hiatus. It's just not releasing very quickly. I release it about once a month because of my rotations. I agree. Basically, I did my last survey rotations came from. Oof, there we go. So these 3 stories right here are releasing once a month, roughly once a month. They also fight with My Dungeon Life for an extra bonus chapter. Because some people just wanted more My Dungeon Life. So, the last Dread Pirate, you'll see 1 a month. I have 3 extra chapters I gotta write. Hopefully I get it right soon. And then I have Rise of the Midnight King, Requiem to the Stars, and guys, you usually get 1 a month. So they are releasing. They're just releasing very slowly. And they're not picking up. And I don't know how many chapters I need to get before people are like, oh yeah, this is worth doing more. I just don't think it will. The Last Dread Pirate's another one. I had a lot of fun writing that. I got a little taxed from writing that too much. Basically, the last guy who ordered chapters from me ordered them without informing me, so I had 10 chapters suddenly out of the blue that I wasn't expecting, and I ended up basically getting backed up. And then that was around the time when yeah. Well, with the kids right now, that's a big issue. I should mention that too. I know my releases. I know I was promising I was going to have these 9 o'clock releases, and I just haven't been able to obtain it. With the kids at home, with me having to school them. I'm having to go out there and be with my daughter and run her through all of her classes and make sure she does all of her homework. And so I'm spending most of the day doing that. And not to mention I have to prepare 3 meals a day for them while my wife sleeps. And then she leaves at 3 o'clock. And so I usually don't get to my computer to work until late. And lately my daughter has been wanting to watch Avatar. I got her into Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so she constantly wants to watch Avatar with me. And I didn't want to lose the opportunity to spend time with my daughter while I can. So my kids have been consuming the vast majority of my day, and unless they go back to school or school's out where I don't have to constantly manage a classroom schedule, I don't foresee my schedule becoming better. I've been releasing just about everything. I know I've missed 2 chapters this month. God forbid I missed 2 chapters this month out of how many consecutive releases? 17 days. At least 2 chapters a day, or 2 posts a day. So out of 36 releases, I've missed 2. God forbid. But I will get Toad out this weekend, by the way. I know Tales of a Demon Queen. I've been writing it, but this chapter is a bit messy, and it'll get written when it gets written. I have it about half done, and I'm trying to get the other chapter of Moth out this weekend too. And then I'll be done with Moth and caught up, and then it'll be just once a week from then on. I won't do many more Moth sponsors. Anyone who was like, oh yes, more sponsors, the story's ending in 20 or 30 chapters, just let it run its natural course. I don't want any more sponsors from that chapter. It's already enough. As far as what I do, I am offering for sponsors. Program to the Stars, no one ever takes it up. Rise of the Night King, I'm happy to do more chapters if someone fills a sponsor. Last Dread Pirate, I'm probably gonna open up these guys once I'm caught up, but I prefer it be 1 chapter at a time. I don't. Some people just think if they throw money at me, I can just pop it out, and eventually, like I took the money and I feel a little bad, especially with the Last Dread Pirate, because that was almost 2 months ago that he gave me that money, and I still haven't finished those chapters. But then again, people were throwing chapters at me and not giving me a warning, or not even, like, they would give me 60 and expect me to do 2 chapters instead of 1. And I'm like, well, I'm saying I need 1 a week. One is what I can handle, and yeah. Anyway, some people wanted the sponsors, so I'm doing the sponsors. There was a point where the money was very helpful and I needed the money, but I'm actually past that point now, where I can live without sponsorships. Because I started selling my books on Amazon, and that has been pretty profitable, so I'm pretty good right now. The best way anyone could help me for free would be to review my books on Amazon. If you wanted to go there and write reviews, I don't know if they get accepted or if they get deleted if you write them. I swear I've sent people to write a review and then never see their review ever show up. I don't know. Why Guy on a Spaceship hasn't been picked up? I have a feeling that a lot of people don't actually really like humor, and that's kind of a shame, because I find myself to be a humorous writer. I prefer comedy over anything else, and most of my pure comedies don't do that well. Rise of the Midnight King is a pure comedy. Guy in a Spaceship is kind of a pure comedy. Power of Creation's a pure comedy. My Dungeon Life, I put more comedy into it, and every time I do, people get a little pissy. They go, "Oh, this is too serious of a story for you to do that." Like the Church of the Big Titties. I put that got a lot of people angry at me because they felt it was inappropriate for My Dungeon Life, because it does have serious things in it too. But I'm just like, life is sometimes serious and life is sometimes comedy, and you experience both of them. So that's kind of how I do it. But and my Dungeon Life will remain fairly humorous, but sometimes I've resisted putting jokes in there because it's not Power of Creation. Power of Creation, I used to mock the fans relentlessly. But that was built into the story. And once in a while, because My Dungeon Life is so much like Power of Creation, I try to mock, but I don't. I shouldn't. It's not that kind of novel. It's not about that. It's more just sometimes you just want to get your frustrations out when somebody's making really annoying comments about stuff like how stupid Deke is for not doing this, and this, or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so once again, thank you all for your support. I really appreciate what you guys have done for me. I will have a survey in 3 months, which will go through all of this specifically, or more in depth. Do you guys have any questions for me? I guess I'm kind of wrapping this up. We're at 2.5 hours now, so I can probably end soon. While you're writing any letters, I'll just say anything else. Thank you guys for everything. Like I said, in 3 months, I'm going to have a survey. I'm going to be looking to see what the next book is. All my one-shots, these are not me starting a book. Some people are like, "Oh, you wrote 2 chapters. Now you got to finish the book." What? This is just a concept that I put on page for you guys to see if you want or you want to continue it. There's still Automatic Girlfriend, which could become a story. Most of these are, I reincarnated here as former body. That would be interesting. Modern Warfare, I didn't like the other one, which I forget what it's called. Modern Weapons Cheat in Another World, I think it's called. I didn't like that story, so this was another one that was that. This was something I tried and nobody liked. I wanted to do this, which was the 3 erotic stories with strangers. I wanted to do these kind of shorter stories that were just kind of a nice little sex story with, it has erotica, but not like in-depth, pages of erotica, more just kind of I think someone said kind of like a Penthouse magazine. I would write 3 erotic stories with strangers, maybe 3 incest stories. See, I didn't start with incest in this one, but it still wasn't popular. No one liked my microfiction. I liked writing it. It's fun to do, but I don't know. Like I said, look it down. This is actually, for any of you, this is kind of an important thing I should mention. Whoever's with me at 2.5 hours, I depend on this. This is what tells me what's popular. I don't usually look at the site statistics up here. What is most informative to me is how many responses I get. So I get, 4 responses here. That tells me this was not something people looked at or read or were interested in. So if you want to influence what I write or what I'm doing, that is the thing that I use. That is my metric. When I post a post and I go back and look at it and I want to see, did you like this? I'm looking at these numbers. 16 responses for My Dungeon Life. But that's at the at the Patreon level, so, or at the $5 Patreon tier, so that's just people who've paid me that much money. Yeah, it's stupid that I can't see them unless I click myself, so I always have to mentally acknowledge one of those votes isn't mine. But yeah, that's what I use to understand what's popular and what's not, because when I see I've only gotten 4 or 5 responses, I'm going, okay, that's... And when I see that there's just tons and tons and tons of responses, that's kind of my telling me that you like it. So when I was saying something like, I know hotness doesn't do well, it's because 0 responses. Frickin' 0 responses. That's hotness for you. It does great on Wattpad, though. Lots of people like on Wattpad. So, that's what you should be clicking if you really wanted to influence what I'm writing, what I think is popular. I don't usually go by the reads, by the whatever on this, because I don't know. I just go by the post. Alright. Do you think you're going to do another competition again for aspiring authors? I would love to, but the last one did nothing. And once again, I picked incest on that one. So maybe it was on me. Maybe if I picked another subject. But I would love to, because I'd happily give someone, the winner $100. I would happily publish it into a book. I feel... I think it would be a fun thing, but there wasn't a single submission. There was a single submission. It was a late submission after the timing where I said I'm not going to take any more submissions. Someone said, well, I finally got it done. You might as well have it. So there's that one, but that was it. That's all I got. So I would love to do one. But it failed so epically that I don't know how to even advertise it. I had a PR guy for a while, and had he not, so I had a guy come along, Ophius, some of you know from my last thing, and he was like, oh, I'm going to be your PR guy, I'm going to work for you. So I would give him assignments, things to do. Some of them were just kind of helping me fix out the site and other things. He was kind of my chore boy. So it was just getting to the point where, I was trusting him enough. I gave him, access to my site as an administrator, and I was starting to talk to him about paying, and then he just disappeared. He got a job in the summer, doing houses or something, and he just hasn't talked to me since. He left like 5 things I had given him to do undone. And, I haven't made an attempt to talk to him, but, it was funny because he was just going on like, I'm going to be doing this with you forever. This is really big to me. Lasted a month and a half, and then he was gone. So the people that stick with me and still work with me, I kind of very much appreciate them that they stay around. Ryan Akama, some people might be, well, he's not a perfect editor. Why don't you get a better editor? Because Ryan Akama stuck around. I could find a new editor, and then maybe they'd leave next month or in 2 months. Ryan Akama has been reliable. On months he feels he doesn't do a lot of work, he'll say, keep the money you give me. I won't take it because I don't feel like I did any work for you this month, and I'll say, okay. And so I really appreciate him as an editor and he doesn't do annoying things. There are some editors that will mock you if they find a mistake. They'll send something to you like, oh my god, you made this mistake. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. Screw you too. So I appreciate him. He doesn't catch everything, but he also isn't invasive. I had another guy who I sent him a book. I'm like, can you do a second correction on this book? Go through it. And he goes, man, this book is really, I didn't think there'd be this many errors. I'm like, oh god, this is going to be bad. And I flip through and it's 1 error a chapter. I'm like, you were saying that's a ton of errors? It's like, yeah, I thought it'd be better than that. I'm like, oh my gosh. So there's a lot of different characters when you're looking for editors, and just finding someone who's reliable is important to me. My illustrators that I have, I mean, I pay them every month. I mean, there's probably at least, I want to say $800 a month of my money that's going out to illustrators, to people who help me, to the editors. And that's not even including, site maintenance. That's just the people that I work with that help me keep things going. Yeah, the pictures themselves, I mean, they're $60 a picture, so that adds up pretty quickly. 800 might be an exaggeration. We'll go with 500. No, it would be 800 because I'm not even including the stuff I've been doing on Fiverr. I have so there are a few newses. I have a guy who was developing an app for me, and basically he's been working on it for 2 months, and now he's hit a point. And this is something I've spent like $1,000 on. I was going to have an app, like a Whatsawhizzer app on my Androids and Apple phones, and that is he's having trouble finishing it. So I'm hoping and being hopeful, but he says he was about to give up on it, and now he's trying to hire someone else to fix. I guess it's some API issue. I don't program, so I don't know what any of it means. But he built the app, but he says he can't connect it to the API, and so he's hiring someone else to rebuild the API, and hopefully it'll work. And he says he's already tried that twice, and it hasn't helped. And so he's about ready to quit. So there's a good chance my app's not going to happen. On the upside, I should get my money back. On the downside, on the really freaking downside, Fiverr doesn't refund you. They give you Fiverr credit. So the $1,000 I spent on this app, they're going to give me back Fiverr credit. But they banned my account. I don't have a Fiverr account anymore. It's literally being held up by them. So, and the reason they're banning me, by the way, is because I dared to say, we could discuss things in email and it could save you some money. Yeah, that was my word. That was basically what I said. And that was enough for Fiverr to ban me, because I was trying to hire people outside of Fiverr, which I already done 6 orders with this guy and spent over, $1,000 on working with him. And you think at some point we could move our service and not be feed by Fiverr on both sides and actually move on to something else. But God forbid. So my account was banned, and I'm wondering if I can get my money back from that. Because if he turns out to not, and I can't, they can't give me $800 of credit I can't use, and they have to give me the money back. And since they're going to ban me over petty bullshit, they better be willing to give me back all that money. I also have another guy who's building me a plugin, and he's also having trouble. So I'm supposed to find out what happens with that on the 21st. So he should have a finished thing for me, but it might also be just as bad. And that's how I have $200 wrapped up in that. So all the programmers I hire on Fiverr never can get me the thing I want them to get me. I've hired probably 5 programmers to do things on Fiverr for me, and 2 of them are working right now, but I've had 3 who have turned around and not been able to do the thing they said they could do. So, more than you wanted to hear. I'm not seeing any more questions. That's kind of why I've been waiting to see if anyone had anything else they want to ask. Anything I missed earlier, or anything you want to know before you go? Not seeing anyone. I gotta wait 20 seconds just in case. In that case, I guess thank you all. I appreciate y'all coming here and listening to me drag on. I hope I didn't say anything too offensive. If I did, I apologize. And I hope you had a good time. All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.